Commander Legends spoilers continue. We got what we think is going to be a new staple for black EDH decks.
The return of the... Oh, wait, you're kidding. He didn't just say what I...
And we can't wait to go over it.
And possibly a new staple in the pirate deck. There's a lot to go over.
Look at this photograph. Every time I do it.
On the second day of Commander Legends spoilers, the video starts right now.
Special thanks to our Patreon supporters who power our channel. Check out our Patreon for monthly giveaways, exclusive content, and even a starring role in our fan fight series. Link in the description below.
For a limited time only, if you join the Patreon at any level, you will receive a holographic Jake and Joel Are Magic logo sticker. Link in the description below. Hello and welcome to the day.
Thank you for spending your time with us.
I'm Jake.
I'm Joel. Welcome back to another episode of Jake and Joel Are Magic. Today we're going over day 2 of our Commander Legends previews, and we got some spicy cards to go over. But first, if you would, go down there and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. It really helps us out.
It's the best way to support the channel, and we are trying to push to 10K at the end of this year. So if you do want to subscribe, you like the channel, and you've been putting it off, now is the time. Let's talk about these cards.
Let's swap it. Okay, Jake, so we've got Marble Diamond, Vial Smasher, Rebecca. This is where we ended. Let's begin day 2. Raise the Alarm reprint we've seen. Radiant Serra Archangel's a 7-cost 6/4 flying partner. Tap another untapped creature you control with flying. Radiant Serra Archangel gains protection from the color of your choice until end of turn. So it's more flying support for those uncommon commanders, so we've got a good mix of commander powers.
What's really cool about this card is once it resolves, it does put your opponent in a position to answer your other flyers. Just, if you want to get to this card, you're going to have to go through the other flyers, or else this can be really good. You know, a 6/4, it dies a lot of the time in Commander, but it's not an awful card, and I think in Limited, especially, it will be very good.
Absolutely. We got an Acidic Slime reprint. We also got
Acidic Slime extended art.
Oh, yeah.
Like, what?
I haven't been considering that as much as you, but you're absolutely right. Extended art foils. We're going to get all those of these crazy cards.
That's kind of interesting.
These Commander staples. We got a reprint of Ikra from the Commander 2016. And Jake, we got our first crazy sucker punch of a card. I mean, this is even wilder than anything we saw in day 1. Opposition Agent is a 3-cost 3/2 human rogue with flash. You control your opponents while they're searching their libraries. So I'm going to translate this. I'm going to say words that aren't actually the words on the card, but I'm going to translate it to what happens if you play this card. You control your opponents while they're searching their libraries, while you are searching your opponent's library instead of them after they've cast or done something that's letting them search their library. You exile each card you find. You may play those cards for as long as they remain exiled, and you may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast them. Jake, somebody pops like... we're going to start base level here. Somebody pops a fetch land. Opposition Agent, you flash it in. This is a really trolly use of this, but you flash it in, and I'm assuming you still have to follow the rules of whatever card is searching. Sure. So you still have to go find a land that fulfills the requirements, or you can choose to fail to find. However, you exile that land when you find it out of their library, and then you can play that card for as long as it remains exiled. And that's base level. We haven't even talked about like
that is
D-Tutor or anything.
Absolutely so brutal. I mean, imagine if somebody were to do like a demonic consultation or some sort of like kicked search spell. You get to go in and do all of the searching for this kicked spell and these multiple spells. From a CEDH standpoint, yeah, it's absolutely brutal because your opponent cracks a fetch land, now they get nothing, and instead you get the land. So, I mean, it's like...
Or they're going to go search up their combo piece, and most of the CEDH meta, you know for the general, in a general sense what you're playing against, and so you can go hate out a piece of their combo.
Yeah, or you can go be like, you know what, I'm just going to grab your Force of Will. That way, if you try to disrupt my opposition agent, you try to kill it, I'm going to use your force and make sure that we protect it. Yeah, there's a lot of really, really good stuff that you can do with this card. It's fantastic. If you're watching the video, I'm sure you've seen a little bit in the secondary market. This has already affected Scheming Symmetry and Wishclaw Talisman and other search effects. Essentially, with Scheming Symmetry, the card is it's parallel. You're searching for a card and your opponent is searching for a card, and they are going to get their card first. Well, now with Opposition Agent on the battlefield, for 4 mana total, if you were to play your Opposition Agent or you EOT your Opposition Agent at the end of your opponent's turn, make sure it's on the battlefield, and then on your turn were to cast Scheming Symmetry, now for 1 black mana, you are tutoring your card that you are going to get the next time you draw a card, and you are tutoring your opponent's card. For 1 black mana, you're getting 2 cards tutored with this on the battlefield. I just think it's a really, really great card. I can't wait to see what people start to do with it.
The card is bonkers.
Malaran, that this card is affected as well. From Morningtide, a card that forces a search for your opponents. Now you will be doing the searching for them, and a lot of people choose best in slot cards for EDH, and you're going to get to go in and have your pick, just like a Praetor's Grasp. Go in there and find exactly what you're looking for. It's very good.
Look for this card to be one of the most expensive non-reprint cards in this set. There's even discussion about this card being, legacy playable, old formats playable, because relevant creature types with human and rogue, and it's turning off search, which is a huge part of really quick formats, is having really mana efficient search. So Opposition Agent definitely took the world by storm today. Just what a card. What a bonkers card. That's so pushed and excellent.
It's a huge staple, and it's in my favorite color.
Right.
It's just so ambitious, and it just like, ooh, it's taking your tutor, man.
Oh, yeah.
It's so good.
It's ridiculous.
It's so good.
Magus of the Order's a green rare, 4 mana for a human wizard, 3/3, pay a green, tap it, sack Magus, and another green creature. It doesn't say non-token, so that's pretty excellent. Can be a plant. Search your library for a green creature card and put it right onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. Pretty cool effect for green. That card,
so imagine
that effect is in a couple of different
Opposition
places.
Agent.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, you've sacrificed your Magus and whatever, your plant token or whatever, and you go and find a green creature card, and you can spend mana any color to play it. Yeah, pretty nuts. But Magus also cool, and a cool effect for green decks that we've seen on various cards before. Here's a reprint, Entourage of Tress. That's a reprint from Conspiracy. Monarch is a sub-theme in this set. And we got Kodama of the East Tree finishing out a cycle that people have been anticipating being finished. And this one's pretty nuts because it says whenever another permanent enters the battlefield under your control, if it wasn't put onto the battlefield with this ability, meaning Kodama of the East Tree, you may put a permanent card with equal or lesser CMC from your hand onto the battlefield. So minimum, every time you play a permanent onto the battlefield, you're getting to drop a land on the battlefield at the same time. But if that permanent was an 8-cost permanent, you can then also drop a 7-cost permanent onto the battlefield or another 8-cost permanent onto the battlefield right away. I mean, as far as ramp goes, this is approaching...
It's kind of like a cascade in a way, but not a cascade from
it's
the
interesting.
library. It's just from the hand.
That's exactly what I was going to say. You get this ramp, but in a different variation. They're coming from a different angle to ramp with Kodama of the East Tree.
Yeah, and that partner is not to be ignored as well. That's a pretty big deal, especially as... WotC is starting to put a lot more partner support into commander sets. We're seeing a ton of new partners in this set, and we know from the past there are partners that have been very influential, and I'm sure this set in time will really shake up Commander, and I'm excited to see how it does.
Yeah, I agree. We got the charcoal diamond, so Jake, you were correct about that call last night, that we are going to get the diamond of each color. Sandstone Oracle is a limited uncommon. When it enters the battlefield, you choose an opponent. If that player has more cards than you, draw cards equal to the difference. It's solid and colorless, but it's 7 cost, so it's not going to be constructed playable.
It's limited sport.
Yeah, and limited, it's fine. We got Cascading the Flesh Sculptor, which is interesting. 3 mana for a 1/3. Tap it, sack 3 artifacts and or creatures. Look at the top 3 cards of your library. Put 2 into your hand and the other into your graveyard. So you can sacrifice some little crappy stuff. Thralls, 0/1s, treasure tokens, whatever you can make.
Aristocrats approves.
Right.
It's
very... my gosh. Yeah,
there's a lot going on here. That's nice.
It's interesting it's pretty powerful for an uncommon. I would say this is one of the more powerful uncommon new legendary creatures that we've seen.
Nightmare art too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so fantastic.
Really good.
We've got Profane Transfusion, and what this card says to me, Jake, is that we're going to get one of those really powerful 9-cost spells of each color, hopefully. We saw blues yesterday, and now we see blacks. 2 players exchange life totals. Then you create an XX colorless horror artifact creature token, where X is the difference between those players' life totals. Jake pointed this out to me when we were prepping for the video today. One of my favorite commanders is Erebos, and Erebos has a greed tied to it. Erebos is a greed on an indestructible enchantment, essentially. And I'm burning myself down the entire time and using cards like Exsanguinate and other various blood artist type effects to keep up with my life total so I don't kill myself. So how about, and it also focuses on doubling and tripling black mana, going infinite with black mana, swamp mana, stuff like that. Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
And so Profane Transfusion is 9 cost. I'll burn myself all the way down to like 5 and then trade with somebody who's 38. And I'm just like, all right, you get the 5, I'll take the 38. I'll also get enormous artifact creature token. What's 38 minus 5? 33. I can do math really quick in my head. Okay.
Yeah, good math.
Yeah, good math. I'll get a 33 colorless horror artifact creature token. Suck it. You know, it's absolutely bonkers.
And compared to Mnemonic Deluge, which we talked about yesterday, I'll link that video if you haven't seen it.
Nice pronunciation on that, by the way.
Yes, I've gone through some consultations and I know how to pronounce the word mnemonic today. A lot more laid back, a lot more tame and reined in. Even though it's a huge life swing, and even though it's, you know, a big, huge creature, Mnemonic Deluge I think is a lot splashier and it has a lot more, you know, someone said 3 expropriate, for example.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a lot more that can be done with that 9-mana blue spell, but I am still excited to see over the next few days what red, green, and white will offer
100%
in these huge cycles.
I think what you're getting at is absolutely right. Profane Transfusion will only go in certain types of decks, whereas there's an argument that if you're playing a blue deck that's got, like, it's just blue and blue in another color, something like that, there's an argument that it could find a home in your deck, even though it's not specifically built around, you know, whatever the mechanics are. Profane Transfusion seems to be built around very specific mechanics. We've got some more limited cards up here, but some pretty bonkers limited cards. Exquisite Huntmaster is a 4-cost that dies and creates a 1/1 with Encore 4/2. Eyeblight Colors is a 5-cost 3/3. It dies, leaves 3 1/1s behind, and mills 3 cards.
That goes wide. I like that a lot for limited. I'm sure there might be some other applications for the card if it makes it into constructed commander decks. Possibly. I mean, it does go nice and wide, and that mill can be advantageous in certain situations.
Absolutely. Prophetic Prism reprint. We got our Cedar Kondo reprint, Nekusar reprint, Queen Marchesa reprint, Sphinx of the Second Sun. We talked about this card yesterday. Here's its extended.
And you see all these borders. Make sure you know that all of these borders are going to have that etched foil, possibly for their, like, premium. I don't know if you want to call it a new rarity, a bigger rarity, but that's something that you should know as well.
Oh, yeah, hang on. Let me get my phone real quick. Okay, so today I tweeted at the designer of the entire set, Gavin, and I said, hey, Gavin, if we see that Commander Legends symbol on a preview card, something like this, does that indicate it has a foil-etched version? He said, just to recap, here's the deal with foil-etched cards. The 69 legendary creatures that are not planeswalkers plus the 32 reprint legends appear in foil-etched versions. The reprints are all foil-etched. Foil-etched appear in every collector booster and sometimes in draft boosters. So 69 creatures, legendary creatures, nice, that aren't planeswalkers, plus the 32 reprint legends all appear in foil-etched version. That's right from the designer of the set himself.
Yeah, very cool.
Now we know. Averna, Soul of the Ramp, or Soul of the Ramp.
So clear this up for me, just because I'll be the guinea pig here.
Sure.
Will this be in an etched version?
Yes, this would be one of the 69 legendary creatures that are not planeswalkers. And so, on that definition, yes, I believe so.
Okay, great. Well,
we'll see,
we'll
right?
see once we start cracking packs. I mean, you know, that's kind of how all of this goes. But, you know, I'm sure if you got that information from the horse's mouth, that should be good then.
Yep, absolutely. Averna, Soul of Ramp, that's a Scryfall name, but teamer colors for a legendary elemental shaman. As you cascade, you may put a land card exiled this way onto the battlefield tapped. So if you're not familiar with Cascade, you take cards off the top of your library until you hit something that is lesser CMC than the card that you cast that has Cascade, and you get to put that permanent right onto the battlefield. This, as you're discarding or as you're exiling lands, is going to let you play those.
And you may put a land card exiled this way. So if you cascade past 3 lands and one of them is better than the others, go with whatever the best land was.
Yeah.
Joel mentioned this earlier. It seems like it goes in the 99 for a deck like Maelstrom Wanderer. It probably shouldn't be at the helm of the deck.
Probably.
Although it does give you the option to change it up a little bit. Maybe some people will prefer the lesser mana cost. Maybe you can go off quickly.
Yeah.
It's yet to be seen.
Yeah, they're giving Cascade a lot of love in this. Here, Jake, is the foil etched,
there it is,
by
right
the
there.
way, so
Okay,
boom.
yeah.
We have got now a Cascade counter-target spell. Okay. That's pretty nutty.
Now, I actually like that in decks outside of Cascade.
Yeah,
I mean, giving
sure.
putting Cascade on a counterspell is pretty big deal. I mean, that's very, very, very cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're going to get... I mean, I was actually saying it wrong. When you cast a spell, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a non-land card. It doesn't have to be a permanent. You may cast it without paying its mana cost, put the exile card. So it can just be, you know, an innocuous bounce spell. It can be something super powerful like Sublime Epiphany. Obviously, it can't be in this instance because you need 4 or less. But yeah, it doesn't have to be a permanent that you're cascading into. Apologies for that. My Maelstrom Wanderer deck is all permanent based, so I'm used to cascading into cascading creatures and just going nuts, you know?
Yeah, now I will say this about this card is I almost want to run it outside of a deck that runs a lot of counter spells, because the worst case scenario is you were to cast this and then cascade into a counter spell.
Right.
If that's the kind of deck that you're building, is it a control deck? You know, if you hit a counter spell, you're just kind of like wasting a spell. It just fizzles, and then it's like, well, why am I playing a 5-cost counterspell? This might be the kind of counterspell that goes into a deck that wouldn't traditionally run counterspells, so it's something to think about.
My Uro green-blue ramp commander deck might want something like this because it's got a lot of really good 4 and fewer spells that help me ramp up my lands like crazy. And so if I stay untapped at 5 and I counter something and cascade into some kind of ramp spell, I'm in a pretty good place for turns, 6 through 8. Yeah, I like that.
That's a really good point.
I like that inclination, Jake. That's a great idea. We got this Cascading Phoenix as well, a 6-cost 5/3 flyer. Wish it had haste, but it doesn't. You do get Cascade though, so you can go get a 5 or less spell. And whenever you cast a spell with Cascade, you return Aurora Phoenix from your graveyard to your hand. So that's how that Phoenix keeps coming back over.
Really
and
cool.
over
We're
again.
getting a lot of Cascade support in this set.
Oh yeah, lots
it's a
of it.
great mechanic. I love it a lot.
We have a pirate here that says when it enters the battlefield, you become the monarch. And it also says whenever an opponent attacks you with one or more creatures, if you're the monarch, this creature deals damage to its controller equal to the number of cards in their hand. So it's a little bit of protection on attacks, and it also is got this monarch thing built into it. So the turn you play it, you're going to become the monarch. You'll get to draw a card at the end of the turn. That's pretty excellent. Other than that, it's a neat red rare. We'll have to see how it goes, how it falls out. I know we've got a ton of pirate support coming in this set. Here's our reprint of Silas Wren from the Commander 2016 Little Artifacts partner. Here's our reprint of Maelstrom Wanderer. I can't wait to get this card.
Can't have Cascade without the Big Daddy Cascade.
I know, right? And I've got this deck, man, and I can't. This is going to be the version of this commander that I really like. I've got the this one here. I've got the Eternal Masters foil already, but getting that foil etched with that Eternal Masters art on it is something I'm very excited about. So I mentioned pirates. Let's look at some pirates, Jake. Breach's Brazen Plunderer. Menace whenever one or more pirates you control deals damage to your opponents. Exile the top card of each of those opponents' libraries. You may play those cards this turn, and you may spend mana as though or mana of any color to cast those spells. It's got partner. This is the card draw that we're seeing in red. They're leaning more and more into this design space, and we've talked about it in a lot of spoiler videos, Jake, that now it's this like exile cards from the top of your library, exile cards from the top of your opponent's library. You can cast those, and that's how they get card advantage into the red piece of the color pie.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I like this card a lot. Very powerful uncommon. When one or more pirates, so it's not going to happen for each individual pirate, but very, very strong card.
It will happen for each individual opponent, which is nice. So you can potentially get up to 3. And I would imagine you're doing this with some kind of pirate tokens, 1/1 pirate tokens, if you can get those going. Stuff with menace, stuff that can't be blocked.
And you're going to be watching this, and you're going to see there's a lot of movement going on with pirate cards. And I mean that from a financial aspect. There's a lot of pirate cards that are moving around right now, specifically because we're getting so many big and impactful pirates. One of them, we're going to talk about it at the end of the video.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and talk about Coastline Marauders. 1 red, 2 other for 0/3 trample. Whenever Coastline Marauders attacks, it gets +1/+0 until end of turn for each land defending player controls. Oh man, with Encore as well.
It's got the potential to be womp, but it's also got the potential to be absolutely ridiculous. A late game 3-drop that might actually matter. That's pretty crazy. It's not going to break the game, but it is nice to see some designs that are going to give red a little bit of power against all of the ramp that they're going to have to play against. We saw breaches. Here's Brazen Freebooter. And Jake, here's a little financial mess for you. This is a very low resolution card, but it is 3 visits, which is $116, very scarce card from Portal 3 Kingdoms, being reprinted at uncommon. What do you think is going to happen to the price of this one, Jake?
It is going to 1,000,000% plummet. We're never, ever again with Space Godzilla Death Corona. You are looking at an uncommon right now. This will appear more frequently than rares. It's not special just because it's in this exceptional frame, this extended art frame. Scarcity is a real thing. Imperial Recruiter, Grim Tutor, we've seen it before. It will all absolutely crash and plummet. So don't break the bank. Wait for this set to be opened. It's a commander set. What is the most important and impactful format in this game? It's Commander. This is going to be mass opened. You're going to be able to find copies of this all over the place for cheap. Very, very, very cheap. Let's talk about it really quick because it is a little bit different. If you're a new player, it's a little bit different than a Rampant Growth. The land that you're tutoring goes directly onto the battlefield. It doesn't go onto the battlefield tap. You can grab a Triome with it.
Yeah.
Joel broke this down for me.
I
was like, wait a minute, is it really this good? And Joel's like, yeah, I mean, in a CEDH standpoint, you can go grab a land that is going to allow you to do, potentially like a Thoughtseize or some sort of duress type effect, any kind of effect for 1 mana.
Exactly.
And so for 2 mana, you're tutoring a land and then playing any spell in your hand for 1 mana. It's very good.
I mean, you go get your forest swamp
fixing
out of your battlefield, comes onto the battlefield, and we just saw Vampiric Tutor. It's been reprinted, so you can do all that potentially in the same turn early in the game. Regardless, 3 visits is one of those CDH cards that it's because of the specificity of forest and not basic land, and it comes onto the battlefield untapped. It's just one of those, format staple ramp spells. That card is going to go way down in price. It's going to be funny how we're all going to have 3 visits here in the next couple months.
Yeah, no, and that's great, and I will probably run it, and I would have never, ever in a million years paid that price.
Oh, no.
However, if you're a new player, you might read that card and say, what in the hell is going on? And if you're an experienced player, it's just going to be a little bit more obvious.
Well, the only reason that I was really super familiar with is I play Commander on MTGO a lot, and on MTGO the card prices are wildly, vastly different. Mana Vault is $4, Mox Diamond is $20, Ancient Tomb is $20. These kind of cards are those prices versus 3 visits is super cheap to pick up on there and play. Moving on from 3 visits, we've got Reliquary Tower reprint. We were gonna get the cool borders of those and foils. We got Kaidel. It's another 2016 partner. We're going to end up seeing all of those getting reprinted. Kitesail Corsair is a reprint we've seen before. Skirmisher's a new card. When it attacks another target creature attacking the same player, Planeswalker gains flying until end of turn, so it's a limited pirate. It'll be good for the limited. We're going to skip over this one for a second and talk about Merchant Raiders. Whenever it or another pirate enters the battlefield under your control, tap up to one target creature. That creature doesn't untap during its controller's untap step for as long as you control it. So it's a little bit of a Frost Lynx, except it's forever there. It's a little more actually like a Dungeon Geists. This is like a Dungeon Geist pirate, but it's for Merchant Raiders or another pirate entering the battlefield. That's pretty cool. So you can like
pirate
get everybody.
Makes it relevant.
Right.
Human
you can get
makes
them all
it relevant.
locked up. So this is actually one that might see some constructed play. We'll have to see. And then we're going to wrap up the day on this card right here, Malcolm Kenide Navigator. So Jake, real quick, I've got to search up Glint-Horn because Glint-Horn Buccaneer is relevant now. More relevant than it was for that weird historic treasure cruise combo, whatever that thing was that I did a couple years back. We've got Malcolm Kenide Navigator.
But let me say this before we talk about Malcolm.
Yeah.
That says something about Glint-Horn. If it's one of those cards where you can build some sort of weird janky combo around it, it kind of says something about cards like those that's like, it's only a matter of time. It's like when Jeff Goldblum goes, life will find a way. Mm-hmm. You know? So it really is like, it's kind of like with Glint-Horn, hindsight is 2020 because I'm watching it spike.
It's like with scheming symmetry and the new tutor. It's like with Witchclaw Talisman and the new tutor stealer. You know, it's got, if it seems like it might one day, you know, take off.
It's like, just maybe, put a pin in it.
Maybe Mox Amber will one day be relevant. You know what I'm saying?
And then it became relevant.
Right.
Very quickly it became relevant.
Exactly.
I still get kicked in the butt by Mox Amber on Historic.
Malcolm Kenide Navigator is a 3-cost Siren Pirate flying 2/2. Whenever one or more pirates you control deal damage to your opponents, you create a treasure token for each opponent dealt damage. So up to 3 treasure tokens being created if you've got one or more pirates dealing damage to those opponents. So pretty cool off the rip, but if you combine it with the card Glint-Horn Buccaneer, whenever you discard a card, Glint-Horn Buccaneer, who is a pirate, deals 1 damage to each opponent. For 2 mana and discarding a card, you can draw a card, and that triggers Glint-Horn dealing 1 damage to each opponent. When Glint-Horn deals 1 damage to each opponent, you create 3 treasure tokens, 1 for each opponent dealt damage. You have 3 mana now sitting on the battlefield ready to use. You activate it, pay 2, sacrifice 2 treasure tokens, discard a card, draw a card. You've got to do it all on an attack. But once you've got that attack off, you can activate this ability as many times as you've got the mana and the cards in your library for. So if your library is total higher than the life totals of all of your opponent's life totals, I'm saying that really weird. If the cards in your library, if there are more cards in your library than your opponents have life, I think I'm being clear. I can't make this any more confusing than I have. You will be able to infinitely kind of kill your opponents with this infinite kind of combo that deals a damage to each opponent each time you discard a card. You create 3 mana that floats, pay 2, discard a card, draw a card. You're knocking through all of their life totals. I'm exhausted from talking about that.
I like to think about it like this. I like to think about it like it's insane burst damage. That's just like, if you get these 2 cards on the battlefield, and I will say this just to be even more specific, this goes infinite with 2 opponents. It's 2 or more. Yep. And it's online. And the thing about it is, it really does come down to just like, it kind of feels like a final attack. It's just like, okay, we're just going to swing with Buccaneer, do as much damage as we absolutely can. You guys have been dealing damage on each other. I've been dealing damage over here. I've been dealt this much damage. Let's just go ahead and get in with the burst. It isn't exactly infinite. It is limited by the number of cards in your deck, like Joel was explaining. However, it is a very notable very notable combo because it's only 2 cards to turn it on.
Yeah, so
and
you need
both relevant pirates.
You've got 3 mana, so this could be played on turn 3 or 4, and then you're gonna need 5 mana to pull this off the first time. But luckily you do have haste on the Buccaneer, so you pay 3, announce that you're moving to your attack step, and then that's when they have to kill the Buccaneer. They gotta kill it before priorities pass back to you in your attack step, because once it's declared as an attacker, you can dodge their removal by just activating it. They can't do anything about it anymore once it's declared as an attacker. But before that, they got to kill it ahead of time before it attacks, or it's most likely going to kill them. Like Jake said, 2 or 3 opponents, you're most likely going to win right there if you can stick the Glint-Horn Buccaneer and move into your attack step, and you have an extra 2 mana ready to activate it the very first time, and then you're ready to rock and roll, because this is whenever.
I love 2-card combos.
I
really do like 2-card combos.
Oh, yeah.
Where it's just like you don't even need anything else on the battlefield. It's just this and 5 mana. Like, let's go.
Well, and this is not as janky as it could possibly be. You do have to activate it only if he's attacking. However, it doesn't have to be like getting through or dealing combat damage first. It is right on the attack that it's activated, and this creature just gets to sit there like an enchantment, which makes it even more easily protected, because this creature doesn't have to be attacking or fulfill anything. It's just whenever one or more pirates you control deal damage to your opponents, create a treasure token for each opponent dealt damage this way. Boom.
And before we wrap it out on Malcolm, remember that says partner. So that combo is specifically, you have it on one of your commanders. One person online said Vile Smasher the Fierce looks good to pair with Malcolm for this combo. That Buccaneer and Lightning Rig crew is another pirate that deals damage to an opponent. Cards like these seem to be good in the deck. Let us know what you think about it. I think it's a great combo, and having that, again, it kind of reminds me of like Lutri. Like Lutri got banned right out the gate for just being like a fork,
Right.
And so Malcolm is half of your combo right there. If you pair it with Vile Smasher, just go tutor up Buccaneer, and then, let's go, man. I mean, that's what you're trying to do, right?
Yep. It was a cool day of previews. Let's close the book on day 2. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Really, truly appreciate it. If you like our stuff, or you've seen more than one of our videos at this point, go and subscribe. It really helps us out. And like Jake said, we're trying to hit 10K before the end of the year.
It's the best way to support the channel with just the click of a button. I hope you've enjoyed these previews.
Check out our Patreon if you want to support us further. Past that, I'm tapped out. We'll catch you tomorrow.